We like to believe that we are in control of our lives, that our choices are rational, our behavior is conscious, and our personality is fully ours. But Carl Jung would call that a beautiful illusion. According to Jung, most people are not driven by their conscious will. They are driven by something deeper, darker, unseen. He called it the shadow, the rejected self, the part of you that hides behind your smile, the impulses you pretend you don't have, the rage you bury, the envy you suppress, the weakness you mock in others because you hate it in yourself. And the terrifying truth is this: you are not free from your shadow. You are ruled by it, not because you embrace it, but because you refuse to. Until you make the unconscious conscious, Jung warned, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In other words, what you deny controls you. This is not philosophy for academics. This is a mirror, and it reveals something few are ready to see. Because Jung's shadow isn't just some poetic metaphor, it's real. It's observable in every self-sabotaging decision, every compulsive addiction, every irrational fear and overreaction. It lives in your projections, the people you hate for no clear reason. It speaks through your sarcasm, your excuses, your bitterness, your shame. You think you're in charge? Try explaining why you destroy the things you care about most, why you procrastinate what matters and obsess over what doesn't, why you judge people for the very traits you secretly feel in yourself. That's not logic. That's not freedom. That's slavery to your shadow. Jung's insight was brutal. What you don't face in yourself will show up in your life as chaos, and that chaos will feel external. You'll think the world is unfair. You'll blame others for your suffering. You'll call it bad luck, injustice, betrayal. But behind it all is the shadow, quietly shaping your reality from the basement of your psyche, because that's how the shadow operates. In the dark, it waits, it watches, and when you are weak, it takes the wheel. It doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care about your image. It doesn't care about your plans for the future. It cares only about expression, and if you don't give it a voice through awareness, it will scream through destruction. This is why people sabotage their careers at the moment of success, why people cheat on partners they love, why leaders fall when they think they're invincible. The shadow doesn't care how high you climb, it only cares how much you've buried. And the deeper you bury it, the harder it hits when it rises. People will do anything, Jung wrote, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Because facing the shadow is terrifying. It means confronting every lie you've told yourself. It means admitting that you are not purely good, that you are not fully rational, that you are not who you pretend to be. And most people would rather burn their life down than look in that mirror. The shadow is not some monster hiding in the dark. It's you. It's the version of yourself you refuse to admit exists, and that refusal gives it power. When you say, "I'm not angry," but your sarcasm cuts like a knife, that's your shadow. When you say, "I'm not jealous," but you quietly undermine someone's success, that's your shadow. When you say, "I'm fine," but treat people with cold distance, again, the shadow. And the cruel twist? You don't just lie to others, you lie to yourself. Because the ego, the mask you wear, will do anything to protect your self-image. It wants to believe you are always in the right, always justified, always the victim. But Jung didn't care about your self-image. He cared about the truth. And the truth is this: you are not who you think you are. You are far more dangerous, far more fragile, far more broken, and far more powerful. But only if you face what's inside. Because if you don't, the shadow will project itself outward. That's the mechanism Jung warned us about. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Translation: the people you hate reveal who you are. You don't get triggered by random things. You get triggered by things that live inside you, things you've disowned. The arrogant man you despise, you might envy his confidence. The lazy coworker you mock, you might fear your own exhaustion. The selfish friend you judge, You might resent your own constant self-sacrifice. That's projection. That's shadow. And it's everywhere. It poisons your relationships. It blinds your decisions. It hides your true motives behind noble excuses. You think you're helping someone out of kindness, but you're really doing it to feel needed. You think you're pursuing success, but you're really avoiding feelings of worthlessness. You think you're a perfectionist, but you're really afraid of being judged. The shadow whispers, and you obey. Not because you want to, but because you haven't learned how to listen. You haven't learned how to confront your darkness with honesty, without flinching. And until you do, you are not free. You are a puppet, not to the world, not to others, to yourself. Because the shadow isn't evil, it's unintegrated. It holds your rage, but also your courage. It holds your shame, but also your humility. It holds your fear, but also your fire. What you repress doesn't disappear. It festers, and eventually, it erupts. This is why the quietest man can explode in violence, why the most selfless woman can turn bitter and manipulative, why the most moral preacher can fall in scandal, not because they are evil, but because they never dealt with their shadow. If the shadow is everything you refuse to face, then freedom begins the moment you turn toward it. But be warned, this is not self-help. This is not positive thinking. This is psychological alchemy. It's the dangerous, painful, honest work of confronting the ugliest parts of yourself, not to destroy them, but to integrate them. This is what Jung called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole, not perfect, not pure, but whole. One does not become enlightened, Jung wrote, by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. You cannot grow while pretending you are already complete. So how does shadow work actually happen? It begins with observation, brutal, unfiltered self-awareness, noticing when you lash out at people who didn't deserve it, noticing when you pretend to agree to avoid rejection, noticing when you feel envy, rage, lust, fear, and instead of shoving it away, you ask, where is this coming from? What is this showing me? You take radical responsibility. You stop blaming others for your internal chaos. You become curious about your triggers instead of defensive. You sit with your darkness instead of running from it. And in that silence, that raw confrontation with your own patterns, something powerful happens. The shadow becomes smaller, not because it disappears, but because it's no longer hiding. And what no longer hides can no longer control you. This is why Jung believed that integration is the real power, not dominance, not denial, integration. Because when you integrate your anger, you stop being a slave to outbursts and start using it as fuel for justice. When you integrate your fear, you stop avoiding discomfort and start walking straight into growth. When you integrate your shame, you stop proving your worth and start living from it. The shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to be seen. And when it is seen, it transforms. The gold is in the dark, Jung said. Meaning, the very parts of you that you've buried hold the keys to your power. The insecurity you mocked, it hides your desire to be accepted as you are. The rage you fear, it's the boundary you were never allowed to draw. The neediness you hate, it's your yearning to love and be loved without conditions. What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. And once you embrace your shadow, not just intellectually, but emotionally, you start to feel something strange. You become calmer. You stop reacting to every trigger. You stop performing for approval. You stop chasing worth in other people's eyes. Why? Because you no longer fear what lives inside you. You've shaken hands with your monster and discovered it's been guarding your treasure all along. What happens when you stop running from your shadow? You become someone rare, not polished, not perfect, but real. Most people are fractured, constantly playing roles, switching masks, hiding their wounds. But the person who has integrated their darkness no longer needs to pretend. They speak with weight because their words are not inflated by insecurity. They move with calm, because they are not at war with themselves. They command respect, not because they seek it, but because they've stopped needing it. This is the paradox Jung revealed. Only by accepting your darkness can you become truly light. The integrated man does not fear his aggression, he directs it. The integrated woman does not deny her envy, she learns from it. The integrated soul does not strive for sainthood, it strives for wholeness, and that wholeness is power, not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that cannot be dominated. Because when you face the darkest corners of your psyche and survive, the world loses its power to intimidate you. You no longer crumble under criticism because you've heard worse from your own mind. You no longer chase false gods because you've met the devil within. You no longer react impulsively because you understand the roots of your emotions. You've seen the chaos, you've walked through it, and now you own it. This is what it means to become whole, not sanitized, but sovereign. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung wrote, is to become who you truly are, but becoming who you are means shedding who you're not. It means killing the mask, burning the false self, letting the old version of you, the compliant one, the perfect one, the innocent one, die. Because freedom isn't found in avoiding darkness. It's found in walking through it with your eyes open. And on the other side is not perfection, not enlightenment, but integration. Peace, not because you escaped the war, but because you stopped fighting yourself. That is the man who cannot be manipulated. That is the woman who cannot be shamed. That is the soul who cannot be broken, because they've already broken and put themselves back together honestly. So no, you're not in control yet, not until you've met your shadow. But once you do, once you stop denying, projecting, suppressing, once you sit with your shame, speak with your rage, listen to your fear, then and only then do you become something terrifying to the system. A free human being, not a slave to the shadow, but its master.